David Hunt and welcome to The Art Hunter. My guest today is part of one of Australia's greatest entertainment success stories, internationally I'm talking about. So impressive. You might know them, maybe you won't. A Melbourne lad who began singing at the age of 8, joined a children's choir, as you do, because he's so obnoxious, he hasn't grown out of it. No, I'm joking. He then went on to complete a Bachelor of Music, impressive, and joined the world famous, get ready for it, the Ten Tenors. You've already probably worked it out because it's over my shoulder, the Ten Tenors. And at times, and right this very moment, he stepped into the role of touring music director, so he's a bossy one as well. Favourite song on tour is Bohemian Rhapsody because he loves to rip off that bow tie and strut the stage just like Freddie would. Michael, hello and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. And what a wonderful group of people to be involved in Ten Tenors. You must pinch yourself and go, wow.
Absolutely. It's definitely, it's such a long-running entertainment act, and to be a part of it, it is a bit of a legacy. It's an institution. So yeah, I definitely have those pinch me moments very often.
Right. We'll come back to them, but let's talk about you. 8-year-old. Singing, and a lot of kids do, and then sort of back away from it. But obviously, you never did. What was it about singing, and what was the interest to keep on going?
Well, I started singing when I joined the Australian Boys Choir, which is a children's choir in Melbourne, and I just loved it. I wasn't a particularly sporty child. Music became my passion. And they have a really amazing kind of musical literacy program and musical education program. So I just fell in love with it and everything about it. And when my voice changed, they have a choir that you can continue to sing with. So all through school, I sang with this organisation, and then it just felt natural to keep going and move into my studies.
Yeah, and how was studies? Did you enjoy that? Like the training?
Yeah, I really did. I mean, singing is such an interesting thing because it's part of you, and you're kind of learning how to use something that's just your voice. It's a really strange thing to study. It doesn't. With piano, it's kind of you have those. This is G, and then you play it, and it goes from there. And there's a step-by-step process. And learning singing is a lot more kind of what's the word? It's kind of airy-fairy in nature a little bit. I don't know, because you're learning how to use something that's already inside of you, and you're using more kind of conceptual ideas to hone your craft. So it's a really interesting process.
But reading music, learning how to read music is a part of the journey. But it would also be, hey, I'm telling you this, and you know more than me, but it's the breathing, isn't it?
It is, and there's so many technical aspects. It is the breathing, and then the phrasing, and then with singing you have words, obviously, which is what sets you apart from an instrument. So you're painting words, and you're learning how to sell a song and to connect with a song. So there's all sorts of different parts to it, and that's where it really differs from an instrument for sure.
Yeah, tenor. Was that an obvious one? Like coming through that process, you were always going to be a tenor?
Well, interestingly, when your voice changes, when you're kind of in your teen years, you kind of don't get much say over the matter.
Oh, okay.
Your range will kind of shrink down to about 5 notes, and then it will gradually over time, as you're learning to use your new instrument, it will grow again, and sometimes it will kind of naturally go into the tenor range, and other times it will go into the baritone range. So it is kind of what you end up with, and then you've got to kind of then learn the technique to carry it through, I guess.
So studying music, did you think that it would just be more of a hobby? You never thought it would be a true career for you?
I really wanted to do something in music. I'm passionate about music education as well, and the boys choir that I that I went through. I actually taught at for a number of years while I was studying. And so I feel like even if it wasn't necessarily performing, something music arts related was what I really wanted to do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So 10 tenors. Now we'll get to your journey there, but for our viewers that don't know who the 10 tenors are, tell us, who are they? How long have they been around?
The 10 Tenors have been around for 28 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they're one of Australia's longest running kind of entertainment acts, which is quite extraordinary.
How did it start? Do you know that
Yeah,
whole
so
beginning?
it started in Brisbane,
Yeah.
and basically Channel 10 were having a celebration back in the 90s. So we're having a celebration and they wanted to put together kind of a bit of a corporate act, 10 tenors at the Channel 10 birthday.
Hey,
Yeah.
I get it.
So that was kind of where the concept started. So they got kind of 10 guys from the Brisbane Con, got them all together and they performed there. And then it kind of continued just as a little bit of beer money for the guys, but it just evolved and they started to tour Queensland and kind of locally around Australia. But the big kind of break, if you like, was that I'm not exactly sure how they ended up here, but they performed on Eurovision in about 2002 as a, not in the competition. Yeah, as a guest spot. And they did a medley of all the songs from that year of Eurovision.
Whoa.
And I believe that it was in Hamburg that year. And so they begun touring Germany because they were a hit.
Wow. How interesting.
Yeah.
It was just that simple. And it would have also been a throwback from the three tenors. I'm sure that sort of had something to do with it as well.
Definitely. It was kind of, I feel like, particularly in the 90s, the three tenors were very, very popular. And it was a bit of a spin-off of them. Yeah, for sure.
So why did you approach, or did they approach you? How did it happen for you?
So every 10 tenor has a really different kind of entry story.
I'm sure.
Mine was, I was literally on Facebook one day and I was on a page that's called Melbourne Auditions, and the touring MD at the time happened to have done a little ad saying, "We're looking for tenors," and I just sent him a message and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in applying," and I sent him a couple of auditions. He sent me some music back and forth, some excerpts from the show, and kind of within 2 weeks, I was kind of getting fitted for a suit. So it was all a bit.
Wow.
It was kind of a random in, to be honest. But
Wow.
I was really lucky that they were looking at that time, and I was online.
Right. And you told me offline that they look at you as a person as well, because you've got to get on with 9 other people, and I'm sure there's a couple of other people thrown in as well. That would be an important process as well, that you've got the right sort of person to go out on tour.
Definitely. We live very close together. When we're touring overseas, in particular in the US, we actually travel on nightliner buses, like sleeper buses. And
okay.
Yeah, we kind of live in a hallway where you have kind of 3 bunks on each side, and it is important that we get along.
But what about the arguing and all that? Does that happen? Somebody's playing up late at night and everyone wants to sleep, or the snore.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a bit of back and forth sometimes, but we try to settle it.
But it also is team building. Relationship would get stronger, wouldn't it, in being that close quarters?
Definitely, and I think part of that is actually evident on stage. It's something we try. We're friends. We're collegial. We get along really well, and that energy is, I think, part of what we try to bring to the stage, and I think it's actually part of the appeal as well.
Yeah. So, is there just 10 of you, or is there a bigger group that come and go, move in and out of the 10 tenors?
Well, interestingly, when I first joined, I actually joined as the 11th tenor.
Right.
I was the standby. And that was because we were traveling Germany for about 3.5 months, and it was winter and just prone to sickness,
of course.
And so I spent my first tour as the 11th. So we do sometimes have a standby. And then I kind of stepped into the group after that tour. So there is sometimes more than 10.
Yeah.
At the moment we've got people who have got the current suit might be eligible to be on the tours, you know what I mean? So but of the Australian tour, we'll be travelling with 10.
Right. But how does it go that all of a sudden, you know, like somebody decides to pull out, you know, like for family reasons, or they might, you know, decide they don't want to do it anymore? There must be that sort of dynamics of, you know, like you've got to pick the odd person up and welcome them to the group. What's that process like?
Yeah, so when people leave, we will often do auditions. So we'll put an open call to anybody who wants to give it a crack, I suppose. And then first of all, we'll see if they can sing, and then second of all, as you were saying, we'll have a chat with them and just try to see if they'll be good to travel with on the road.
Yeah.
When guys come in, I think just the volume of music can be quite overwhelming. So we try to have a very supportive environment to bring guys into the fold.
Yeah, because I just assumed that there would be a pool of, say, you know, like 20, and that people would change around a little bit. Obviously not.
I mean, it does work a little bit like that.
Okay.
In some instances. You know, on the New Zealand tour, we had a 10. One of the guys is moving into another role with Opera Australia. So we've got an old tenor from about 6 years ago who's coming back for the first time. So it's a bit of a family. You know, if you've kind of sung with us once and you need to leave, it's never kind of, you know, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's not that kind of thing. It's definitely we kind of pride ourselves on having that, you know, welcoming and that kind of family-esque thing.
But internationally, you know, like you're on the road for so long. What's the longest spell that you've been away from Australia?
My first tour to Germany and kind of, it was like the surrounding countries, was 3.5 months. So we left in...
That's a long time.
It's a long time. And I remember actually kind of backing out of my driveway. It was November and I was kind of, oh my God, I'm not going to be back here until March. It was wild. And then, you know, we've done 2 months, 2.5 months. Sometimes we'll do just a few weeks. We were just in NZ for about 3.5 weeks.
Right.
So it does vary.
But how do you go with that 3 months? You know, like you must be, you know, like sick of it in the end. You know, like sick of the other guys and just thinking, I just want to go home.
I mean, I'd be lying if we didn't have those days for sure. And, you know, the tours you kind of have the hype up at the start and then you might fall into a little bit of a lull and then kind of you get towards the end and you go, oh, this is going to be the end of the tour. So it ebbs and flows a little bit.
And audiences, you know, like they would take you on a high if they're, or if they're not, you know, if they're just sitting there, you know, like you have to work harder to get them on side.
Yeah, and the energy from the audience, I suppose, is what really feeds us. If you have one of those days where you're kind of thinking, oh gosh, I'm not sure how I'm going to get through this show. If it's an energetic crowd, like it definitely lifts you through.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the show. You know, like there must be a lot of gags along the way that you use. You know, how do you start the show? You know, like is there one song that captures the audience straight away?
Well, so this current show for our Australian tour is our greatest hits show. And we have kind of gone through our catalogue of repertoire to try and put something together that really encapsulates the group and really celebrates all the different type of music that we've done. The opening of this show currently is Funiculi Funicular, which is a very kind of well-known, almost you know, folk song. Kind of nothing fancy about it, but it's actually one of my favourite arrangements in the show because there's a solo from every single tenor in it, and the idea being that we introduce every single voice to the audience and kind of get them excited for what's about to come.
Yeah. And, you know, like that is such an old song and a lot of people wouldn't know it. It would be a certain age group. Did you know it before?
I did know it.
Why? How did you know a song like that?
I just feel like kind of coming through a music degree and all that kind of thing, you just kind of can't help but kind of encounter it at some point along the way.
Yeah.
When you're kind of, you know, essentially a bit of a cover group and doing songs that are written by other people or that already exist, I suppose it's always about trying to reimagine them and make them exciting. And I think, you know, something in our arrangement of Funiculi Funicular does that really successfully.
Yeah.
It kind of has a very different feel to it, and I think it really just hits the mark on that.
Is there songs though that all of a sudden you go with this greatest hits tour that you go, oh, I didn't know this song?
Well, we have definitely kind of had songs come into the show here and there where I haven't been familiar with them at all. We have this beautiful Spanish song called Aranjuez, and I didn't know it until I joined the group, and I kind of loved that. And it is in our greatest hit show, and it is, for me, considered a Ten Tenors greatest hit, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. So you do a lot of classical songs in your show, but there's also the more pop songs that you do. That would be popular, are they?
Yeah, so we try to have a really wide range of repertoire, and I think that's kind of can be the thing that takes people by surprise when they come to our shows. The origins of the group was very much operatic and arias and kind of classic folk songs and that kind of thing, but the other part of it was kind of reimagining songs like Bohemian Rhapsody and more contemporary songs, and that's definitely one of the most exciting things about the show, I think.
Do you follow trends at all, or do you stay pretty much to who you are? Where I'm going here is that during COVID, sea shanty songs became really famous, and there's now like vocal groups that go out around the world that sing those sort of songs. Have you included one of them in your?
We haven't, but that sounds like a great idea, to be honest, because I love a good sea shanty. We try to, when we're kind of looking to introduce things to the show, we kind of want them to be relevant. We want people to kind of go, oh, I know that from there, or something like that. So it's something we try to keep our finger on the pulse on, but that's one I missed, so might have to do something about that one.
So in your role as the touring musical director, what does that mean? Are you listening when you're on stage to everything that's going on? Are you introducing a different song every now and then? Tell us what your role is.
So there's a few things involved in my role. I assist our producer with hiring and finding new talent.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so I suppose I kind of, have a big say on what our sound is.
Yeah.
Which is one of the, really exciting parts.
Yeah.
Parts about the role. I work with him, our producer DJ, and our arranger, Stephen Baker, on the set list, on kind of putting together the show, and we do that together. And I then have to allocate the guys to all their parts and run the rehearsals and kind of make sure it's all in check. And the other part is keeping the show really, really tight. So I actually... We record the show like into the mic desk, because we all use mics, and I'll listen back to it and then give the guys notes and find ways to just keep it nice and tight.
Yeah, and is that a difficult conversation sometimes? Or?
Look, it can be, and actually, kind of when I stepped into the role of music director, I suppose one of the things I wasn't really expecting was the kind of people management side of things. Sometimes conversations are difficult. When people are all artists, it can't be the easiest thing to deliver a note or a critique or that kind of thing. So that was something I wasn't really expecting, and that's been a big learning curve. But the guys are usually pretty receptive.
Yeah, and you're not doing it out of spite. You're doing it for the good of the show, aren't you?
Well, exactly. There are individually 10 exceptional voices, but the show is about the 10 tenors. It's about, and there are moments where everybody shines and they have their own solo, but it really is about the 10 of us. And I think that's a really important thing to remember when kind of in those situations.
So how hard is it for you when you come back from touring? Do you fall into a heap, or do you go, wake up the next morning and go, I want to get back out there again? How do you approach it?
It's a little bit of a mixture of the two, actually. Kind of when you get to the end of a really long tour, it can be really nice to go, oh gosh, I get to just relax. But also sometimes it can be, shouldn't I be somewhere? Have that kind of...
Have I slept in?
Yeah, exactly. Do I need to be on the bus? So it's kind of a weird mixture of the two. It's nice to get the break and to get the time off, but losing that routine a little bit can be a bit kind of a bit strange as well.
Yeah. So there you are, somewhere in the world, or even here in Australia, and you're you're seeing the world and your own country because you're travelling a lot at night. And do you have free days where you can go out sightseeing?
Yeah, we do. Particularly when we're overseas and we're, as you were saying, travelling overnight, you kind of wake up and you kind of get the day to yourself. We don't have to do anything kind of show related until the evening. We'll do a sound check. So you can kind of check out the local sites, even sometimes it can be nice to just go and get a coffee at a local cafe.
Yeah,
so there is plenty of opportunity to do some sightseeing.
Yeah. And are you that person? Do you get out and about?
I try to make the most of it, yeah. A few times we've gone to Aspen, Colorado. And it's just, waking up, and it was Christmas Day actually. So we had Christmas Day in Aspen, and I had to get on the gondola and go check out the slopes and that kind of thing. And that was a real pinch me moment, having a white Christmas. When I'm at work.
Yeah, when you're at work.
Yeah.
And are you good on social media? You're sharing those photos with family and friends?
I try to. It's something that some of the other guys are better at, so I try to piggyback off them quite a lot when it comes to social media. But yeah, I try to keep those memories.
Yeah, because it's important, isn't it? Because all of a sudden one day it will end, and it's nice to have those memories, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And part of it is obviously the shows and the singing and is incredible, and I love that. But one of the other aspects that I absolutely love about it is the touring part of it. Going to places that you just would never ever go. Sometimes we'll end up in these tiny towns in Midwest America, and you'll kind of say to yourself, oh, I don't think there is any other scenario where I would have ended up here.
Yeah, and you hear Deliverance banjos playing in the background as you're walking down the street.
Yeah.
What's an audience like that like? In a small American town, it would be very different to playing, like a major city.
Yeah, I mean, there's one town that particularly springs to mind. It's Newbury, South Carolina, and we got there in the morning, and we actually had the day off.
Yep.
And a couple of the guys and I were kind of said, let's go get a beer and check out the town a little bit. And it was a bit of a ghost town. There wasn't much going on. And anyway, we kind of opened the door to this bar, and there's kind of 6 older guys sitting there, and you could tell and we kind of walk in with our Australian accents, and they're kind of going, what is going on here? And they had been going to that pub for the past 40 years of their life, and they go every Wednesday.
Yeah, oh, right.
And we were there on a Wednesday afternoon, we sat and we had a beer with them, and then they came to the show.
Fantastic.
And he emails, our group every so often saying, oh, when are you coming back?
And fantastic. Yeah. And, was there an audience there apart from these guys? You got a good audience there?
Well, it was a small venue, but it was really beautiful. So it was only about 450 seats.
Oh, that's still not too small.
So, and we've been there 3 or 4 times. So,
okay.
Yeah, there's the audiences are around, that's for sure, yeah.
So you get repeat people coming back every time you go to town because, you would change the set list a bit.
Yeah, the shows change, generally kind of every couple of years. We also tour a Christmas show. So if we're touring Christmas time, we have a Christmas show, and then we'll kind of have another show on the go to tour when it's not Christmas. So this Greatest Hits show, this is the first year of it, but last year we were touring a show called The Highwaymen, which had a kind of country-esque theme to it.
Yeah. And on stage, what do you have a pianist with you, or is it backing music?
We have a piano player, a drummer, and a guitarist.
Oh, so it's a little combo.
Yeah, and then we also have backing tracks that are with our orchestra that are pre-recorded in Prague. So it's a little kind of blending of live music and pre-recorded instruments, and then us singing.
Has there ever been a time when something's broken down and it doesn't work?
Oh yeah, there has been, and you feel the collective kind of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? And they can be really scary moments, but they can also be really amazing moments trying to get out of them, I suppose. We had our computer completely, something weird happened to it in Perth, and one of the guys just had to kind of talk to the audience for about 5 minutes while we sorted it out, and then just trying to, there comes a point where you can't bluff it anymore. And you kind of just have to say,
hey,
something's gone wrong here, and we're going to pick it up from here. And usually the audiences are very forgiving, and it kind of brings something else out of the guys on stage, because you go, oh gosh, we got to really get to the end of this now and give him something great.
How many years have you been doing it?
I've been doing it for 9, coming up to 9, about 8.5.
Wow,
yeah.
and you're still loving it?
I'm still loving it, yeah. I don't know what keeps me coming back sometimes, but I love the camaraderie, and the thing that I love most about the gig itself is that it kind of it celebrates everybody individually. Everybody has solo moments, but I love singing in an ensemble.
Yep.
It's what I grew up doing, and so it has that element to it, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Singing recitals or that kind of thing can be a bit of a more lonely experience, I suppose, even though you've often got a pianist, whereas this is just, it's like a team.
Yeah, well, and you'd be so used to it now, doing it for so long. How much longer can you see yourself doing it? Or you're not even thinking about that?
I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just going to keep doing it as long as I enjoy it, I think.
The right answer, I think.
Yeah.
You're like, just why not?
Yeah.
I think you would actually kick yourself if you all of a sudden go, oh no, like, it's time to walk away.
Yeah.
It sounds as if you're still really enjoying it. The happiness in the way you've been talking with me today about it.
Yeah.
But when you're back in town, what do you do? How long a period do you have off? Is it a month, 2 months off?
It can vary. It can be sometimes just a couple of weeks, or it can be a month, or it can be a bit longer than that.
Okay.
And like, any job in the arts, it's not the easiest when you're not doing your thing.
Yep.
I'll do some teaching here and there, but sometimes I'm working in a cafe. It's just the nature.
Oh, do you?
It's just the nature of being an artist, I think.
Right, because that's fascinating to hear that with like how much travelling you do, and then you work in have you got a mate that's got a cafe or something that you work in? Or?
Yeah, I try to hit up some people to kind of, hey, I'm going to be here for a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
But and it can be really strange to kind of be performing in Brazil and then back at home and looking for a job. It can be a really can be a bit of a weird feeling, but it's just the nature of performing.
But like the teaching thing's an obvious one.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you're away so much that people don't know you're back, or you have to let people know. And do you do it through a school, or do you do it, just one-on-one through, an ad?
Yeah, I try to kind of pick up some teaching, more group-based things where you can kind of sub or something like that. I think when you're teaching one-on-one, it's really good to have a long-term rapport with your teacher. So I don't really teach kind of one-on-one technique, more kind of musical classes, like through the choir that I was talking about earlier, just teaching musical education and literacy and that kind of thing, and more group-based stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. Is there something in the back of your mind that you think I want to give that a whirl at some stage?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to maybe one day be in a musical or something like that. Sometimes I'm always thinking about what else I might want to do after the Ten Tenors. If I get sick of it, I often do wonder what I might do next, and that question is often pretty difficult to answer, I got to say.
Well, as I just said a little while ago, I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
Because you're still quite young, so you've got a long time. As I said, they can wheel you up on in your wheelchair, and you could still be doing it. It's just the most wonderful, fascinating world that I think it's just fantastic that you're doing it, and and the fact is that you're still loving doing what you do, and it is that whole thing that you've got 9 other people there with you on the journey, as well as the little combo that you've got.
Yeah.
So good on you. Congratulations for
you.
being part of this, and for it to last as long as it has for you.
Yeah,
it must be wonderful. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. And, like people can see you around Australia on this tour, but I hear a lot of it's already sold out.
Yeah, there's a few cities here and there that are sold out, but there's still plenty of tickets available.
Of course. There's always more tickets.
Exactly. There's always more tickets. So if people want to check out, they can go to the10tenors.com and see where we're playing and grab a ticket.
Yeah. Do you look at that side of it? Do you, like think, I wonder how ticket sales are going, or don't you really get involved in that?
To a certain extent, in terms of I can be curious to know whether the curtain's going to go up and there's going to be people there, I suppose, in that regard. But I mean, one of the things is to try and just deliver the best show possible if there's 10 people in the crowd or the 10,000 people in the crowd.
That's the key, isn't it? That's the key. Thank you so much, Michael, for chatting with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
My absolute pleasure. You've been watching The Art Hunter. I'm David Hunt, and we'll see you again next week. See ya.